Great people, welcome to NameTech channel. My name is Nehemiah and I'm very happy to have you on board. So this is lesson 4 on Matplotlib and we are going to talk about the lines. But then before I begin, please subscribe, like and share the video to your friends. And to the returning subscribers, I really appreciate you very much for your support. Now let's begin with the line style. And guys, basically you can use the keyword argument line style or the shorter version ls or the alias for line style is ls to change the style of the uploaded line. So let me use an example here, guys, for a dotted line. Perhaps we shall talk about other lines later, but then remember, before anything you must import the module with the import keyword. Here it should be import and then matplotlib pyplot and then as keyword, then plt, because we are using plt as an alias for matplotlib.pyplot, and then also we are gonna import numpy. Remember, this matplotlib work with numpy, so you must always import numpy, otherwise you'll have issues. Numpy is what? np alias. And then here let me create perhaps a variable. Let me call it, you can call it anything. Perhaps you can call it y points, or let me just call it y. Then let me assign it to np, to a numpy array. And then I'm gonna pass in a list of integers integers. Perhaps let me give it a 3, 8. I can give it even 1, 10. Then guys, remember, if you don't specify the x-axis, it will pick by default from 0, 1, 2, 3. So for x-axis, let's assume we have the x-axis. It will be this 3 will go with 0, 8, 1. Then you know, that in that format. So here again, let me create now the function to visualize, to plot the graph. Let me say plt dot plot function. Should be plot, and then I'm gonna pass in the y variable, and then I don't know the variable that you used on your end, but then here you can use line style. Let me show you with the longer version line style, but then it has the alias for this line style. Let me give it dotted this time. Let me call it dotted. Let's begin with the dotted, and then to visualize we are gonna use plt dot show, actually, to execute in the terminal. So let me do it. Let me run the codes. I'm assuming everything is okay. Let me give it some times to render the codes, to execute the codes, and then guys, basically you can see it now works. But then you can as well use the alias, basically the shorter version of which you can just say what, ls instead of line style. And then what you do when you refresh, it will give you the same result. So you can decide to choose to use the longer version or the shorter version. And then here you can change from dash, dotted. You can use even dashed. You just type in dashed. So dashed. And then what you do, let's execute the codes, and then guys, basically you can see now it has changed to dashed. So basically remember, for dotted guys, you can use a shorter version also, that is a colon. The colon is the shorter version for dotted. Then a dashed is it's called what, hyphen twice for dashed. So instead of dashed, you can decide to use this dashed, these hyphens, 2 hyphens. And then when you run, it still gives you the same results. And then if you use the colon, remember the colon stands for the dotted. Then when you run, you can see it gives you the dotted line. So guys, basically that's how you can work with that. And then the dash dot, you just change it to a dash hyphen, then a comma, a full stop, then it will give you a dashed, then a dotted. So let me talk about the color, the line color. Though we talked about these stuffs up in the previous tutorial, but then let me just talk about the colors. So you can decide as well to choose to add the color here. Perhaps let me here change it to let me add in another argument. Let me call it a color. Then let me give it perhaps a red for red. Then let me run. Then again, basically you can see it is now red. For green, just change it to what? To G. And then when you run, it is green. For Mangeda, you just type in M. It gives you the same results. For black, it is K. When you run, it gives you the same results. For white, you won't see anything, which is because the background is white. Let me run, and then again, basically you can see you can't see anything because it doesn't blend well with the background. And then you can as well decide to use the color code, like for red, it is it is usually FF and then 0000. I think that's the color for red. And then it is, you can see the color there. For yellow, it is FFFF00. And then when you run, you can see it's now yellow, though I don't think you can see on your end. And so you can decide to choose even the color code, the hexadecimal colors. Let me now talk about the line width. If you want to, first of all, let me choose to use red for you to see better. Let me choose or a blue. Let me choose red. Then let me run first of all, so that hey, color code is it for red? FF. So for red it should be FF00. Remember, it is RGB. So the first color is red, green, then a blue. So when you give F, remember the F is the maximum number. Actually, they stand for 256, 255 or 256. So when you give it the maximum number, then at the other you give the lowest number. So the highest number will dominate. That's why you can see it is red. So if you give the second one is, which is green, RGB. So green, if you give it 00 red, and then for green you give it FF, so automatically it will be what? It will be green. So you can just play around with those stuffs. You can even change anything, it will just work. And then now guys, let me now talk about the width. The width actually is the line, is the width of these lines. First of all, let me choose red. I think red is the one which can be seen much better. Red. And then here guys, for line width, just add in this argument and this parameter called line width. This is spelling for width. Remember, when you just write your things, it won't work. You must be specific. A line width, if you say perhaps something like 20, so it will expand by 20. It's very, very big, right? Very big. Let me choose to use 10 perhaps. Let me use 10. And then let me run a bit, and then guys, you can see it is still very, very big. But then that's how you can increase or decrease the line. But then let me just use dashed here. Let me just use dashed so that it may not be that ugly, so that you may see much better. Now for multiple line, so guys, basically for multiple line you can choose for multiple line. Let me just create another line here. Let me copy this one. Remember, I hate typing, that's not a good practice. But then here, let me change it to the first one should be, or let me just call it Y2, line 2, Y2. This one, let it be Y1. You can give it any variable name, doesn't matter. Then you can give it any value, it doesn't matter. 4, 2, 8. Perhaps let me choose 10 again. And then what I do to plot, you have to do it. You have to use these two arguments again. Let me copy. And then here let me paste it there, but then here I'm gonna change it to y2, then here is y1, then a color here let me use a green. Remember guys, you can as well use the color name, like for green you can just say green, and then line width let me reduce to perhaps something like a 5. It's not 55, it should be 5. Also here let me choose to use a 5, and then what I do, let me run the codes, and then guys basically you can see that's how you can plot with multiple lines. So you can also plot many lines by adding the points for the x and y axis for each line in the same plot function, other than adding several lines or many lines. So basically you can do that guys basically by specifying the x axis. You can as well choose to specify the x axis and the y axis. But then guys, let me show you how to draw perhaps true lines by specifying the x axis and the y axis. So what I do guys, let me just copy these lines, then I do what, let me paste it here, then let me call it y1, then this one should be y2. Now this one is for x axis, and then the below will be the y axis, or let me just change it to x so that you may relate very well. And then here perhaps let me change the values. For x, the first x axis, let me choose 0, 1, 2, and then 3. And then for x axis in the line 2, let me use perhaps something like a 3, 8, 1, and then 10. And then for y axis, for actually y2, first y axis, let me choose the line 1, the y axis, the y axis for line 1, let me choose perhaps 0 again, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then here let me change the second line, the y axis, let me give it something like perhaps 6, and then 2, and then 7, and then 11. And then what I do guys, let me just use a single line here so that we may not have many. Let me just remove this stuff, these lines, and then remember this function just remain the same. I haven't deleted because we are using the same function here. But then here you can see we have x1 and then y1, so it goes in that hierarchy. And then also we have y it should be x2, and then what, y2. I guess I'm correct. And then what I do guys, let me run the codes, and then I see the changes. Let me run. I'm guessing everything is okay. Otherwise, let me see. I think there's an error somewhere. I think there's an error, guys. So you can see here it says x1 is not defined. So let me just check. Oh guys, you can see there's an error here. There's no what? There's no. Oh, it should be here. It should be x1. Let me choose x1. Then here y1. Then here x2. Here should be y2. So this way it will work. Let me run, and then guys, basically you can see it works. So basically that's how you can work with the multiple lines, and basically this is all about Matplotlib lines. So guys, please subscribe if you have not subscribed, and to the returning subscribers, asante sana kabisa, and let's meet in the next tutorial. Goodbye.